back here with Coach Lowery at the Tallgrass Taphouse. Really appreciate the time. I know, obviously, in the middle of Big 12 season and recruiting, so thanks for taking the time to talk to us and to talk to the fans, too. I sure appreciate it. We'll start with the most recent game. Of course, you guys beat West Virginia this past Monday night in Morgantown. I know the term trap game probably gets overused, in sports, but you guys had been on such a stretch of, big games against teams towards the top of the league. West Virginia wasn't, but it was on the road. How were you able to get your guys so successfully up for that, just 2 days off that Iowa State finish?
I think the biggest thing is that our guys knew that Kansas lost there.
Right.
So that's the biggest thing, knowing that somebody else in the top of the league lost there. We really didn't have to talk that much about it. I think the disappointment from Iowa State was enough. We knew we let one get away. We knew we didn't play well. And, for what it was worth, that was kind of a trap game because we felt, I think our guys thought we were just going to magically show up and win. We beat them there and we're going to beat them at home.
Right. You talk about the road success. You guys are, I think, 6-1 now in the league. The only loss at a really good Tech team when you didn't have Dean Wade. Of course, it's the seniors and the experience and that kind of stuff. But what else has caused you guys to be so consistent and so successful on the road, you think, in the league?
I mean, they're older. They played a lot of games together. The older teams in our league win. I think that's the biggest thing. This group's been to the Elite Eight together. The starters intact. Have played a lot of games and have started a lot of games. So I just think the biggest thing is that when you have experience, they won 5 games as freshmen.
Yeah.
I mean, and they built on that, and I think that's the best way to describe why they're playing well and how they're playing well.
Coach Weber briefly in postgame last night kind of talked in generalities about you and the staff talking about Big 12 newcomer of the year, Big 12 freshman of the year, and he was talking about Culver from West Virginia. And I know there's tons of season left, and you can't get ahead, but from a media perspective, Barry Brown to me has been the player of the year in the Big 12 so far. Like, how good has he been? Like, stuff that we don't see or we don't know. Just how good has he been for you guys this year?
I think, people got to realize when you look at his efficiency, when you look at all the stuff that leads into a guy being player of the year, because obviously people think we only play defense.
Right.
When you look at Barry's stuff and his in-league stats, I mean, they're as good as anybody's that's scoring the ball in our league. So I think that's the biggest misconception with him is that, he's just a defender who makes timely shots. No, he's a great player on both sides of the ball. And, we've been riding him. He's been carrying us through points of the game, and he's made timely shots, and that's what you want from your seniors.
I'm stealing this stat from John Kurtz, but you said the same thing. I think if you're looking at just offensive efficiency and Kim Palm, I think Barry's number 1 in the Big 12 now over Mekhi Mason, Merrill Shayok, Dedrick Lawson, Jarrett Culver, all these guys. But you also said something, too, that, I think I want to hear more about is that I think your offense, of course, is better than people give it credit for. It's top half of the league in the conference. You scored 70 or more against, 4 games in a row, Okie State, KU, Texas, Baylor. How has that come along? Because people just look at points and say, they didn't score 85, so they're not good on offense. But how have you been pleased with how that's come along over the course of the year?
I think we've settled in our roles, and I told you this at the beginning of the year. It was hard for everybody to settle back in the same role that they had.
Right.
But be better at it. So now, obviously, guys are comfortable now. They understand their role. They understand what makes us successful. And, we always say when Dean, Barry, and X play well offensively, we can beat anybody.
Yeah.
Because we know the type of effort and we know what everybody else is going to give us defensively. And when those 3 get going, we're really tough to beat.
You mentioned X, and he was the next guy I wanted to ask about because, like everybody, he had some issues maybe in the first half in that game, but I think he was 4-4 from 3 in the second half. I think he had 5 or 6 boards. He was basically perfect, shooting the ball and rebounding in the second half. How big was he in that? Because Barry kept you guys in it or ahead, but he kind of put it away, it felt like, a little bit.
Right. He had some good passes. Dean found them. Barry found it. He had some timely shots, and he really did a great job of finding open spots. And, they play they play so hard, and they make it hard and for you to score. They muddy it up, and they're physical, and they're tough. But once they went zone, we really got going, finding open spots, finding the middle of the zone, dropping them off to Mac, and really just finding ways to score.
You're so well known for your defensive stuff, and when I heard you say zone, it piqued my ears because you guys have played a little bit and been successful in it. I mean, for the most part, I think against Texas, for example, it really threw them off a little bit. What made you guys decide to do that a little bit, and how has it worked out for you all?
Well, it's you got it. It's coach trusting it, a little bit more. And Brad Corn brought it with him. Brad. So whenever people scoring, a coach gets mad at Brad because that's BK's zone. It's never our zone when people score on it. So we're better in it. And him not being afraid to use it. And I think when we're in foul trouble, we got to use it more just to keep our better guys on the floor.
Getting back to some of the players, Dean, I was real impressed with. Coach Weber said he wasn't sure if him or Cam would play Monday at West Virginia, and then he plays 32 minutes and plays pretty well. How important was that to get him back on the floor so fast, and what he did for you guys in Morgantown?
Well, he stepped on somebody's foot. That was what happened. It wasn't
not
any of the other injuries that happened before.
Yeah.
And we were just precautionary. It's like, you know what, just take him out.
Because he walked around even during the huddles and stuff during Iowa State. Yeah.
Right. He was fine. But you just got to be smart. I think the biggest thing with Dean is, for a guy who has a name in our league, he gets his elbow hit more than any guy I've ever seen. And he's a great shooter. And he never shoots air balls for no reason. And, last 2 games he's been getting hit on his wrists and elbows, no calls. And, he's handling it like a champ because as a player, I would have went crazy, every time it happened. And it happened a couple times in the West Virginia game, too.
Right.
So, is he 100% healthy? No. But he's a soldier, and he plays hard, and he understands what's at stake. And, sometimes it's hard when you feel like you're not 100%. Then some kids shut it down.
Yeah.
And Dean wants to win a conference championship, and he knows him being in the lineup is a big part of us getting to that point. So, and for as parents, as we all have kids, we're not going to ever play him when it's a situation where it could jeopardize his future.
You mentioned how physical, I guess, West Virginia was, and the what they did with Dean. Really, I know you're not going to complain about officials, so I'm going to ask it a different way. You go back now 4, 5, 6 games. I thought Baylor was really physical with you guys. I thought Texas was. How have they – I guess my question is this. How has the team done going on the road and knowing every game they're going to have teams that are physical and teams that are looking at you guys as resume builders for them? I mean, that's a different motivation. But you said it was experience earlier, but how impressed have you been that they've handled that time after time on the road?
Well, it's been our strength coach, too. Our guys are – in great shape. They're physically fit. They're strong, and experienced. Winning on the road is a little bit lucky, a little bit experience, and a little bit good. Being a good team, and right now we got a good mix of all those 3 going for us right now. And our guys are consistent, and they're not rah-rah. We've really done a good job of controlling their emotions in emotional times in games, and especially on the road. Because when you're on the road, the home team is going to go on runs.
Right.
How do you deal with that? How do you handle it? How do you slow a run down? Do we need to call timeout to regroup, or are you guys going to do it yourself? And, Barry did it himself. He got on our guys in the West Virginia game in a timeout, and we didn't have to say anything. And that's when we went on a 12 over or whatever it was.
That was a 12-minute timeout, wasn't it?
Yeah, because we were up 7 subbed, and it was tied within a minute and a half. And we were like, wait a minute. And then, Barry handled the huddle, and X went crazy after that, basically.
How frustrating is it as a coach? And I don't want to put words in your mouth, so you can tell me if I'm wrong, but you guys are up 7 in that game. You haven't set Barry hardly at all. So you try to give him a minute around the 12-minute timeout, and they go on a 7-0 run.
Right.
How frustrating is that to think, man, if I put this guy on the bench for one stretch, here's what happens.
You want for your bench to be able to sustain some of that momentum, at least be defensive. And it didn't matter about the offensive side, but we couldn't sustain it defensively. Along with the circus dunk shots we missed. I don't know what that was about. That was crazy.
Have you ever seen?
Never seen it. I said some choice thing. I called Mac Plenty in my mind. After all those dunk attempt misses. Nothing out loud, but in my mind, I'd have been in trouble for what I would have said.
I have to be honest. So a fun thing about being at a road game like that, your friends are not. They're watching on TV and they're like 8 seconds behind. So I got to text him and say, "Hey guys, Mac, he missed another one," and no one believes me. He's played hard, of course, all year and played well, but that was crazy to see. I think I have to ask. People would be curious. I know you guys don't know a lot more on Cardi, but how is he just doing, not from a physical standpoint, but mentally dealing with this after playing so well and then having it taken away at least for a temporary period of time?
He's still the same. He's still a free spirit, and he left out of the parking lot Then he came back to tell me something again. Then he drove off, came back again. It's just like that's who he is. He's just, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you this. You know, it's nothing really important. Just wanted to tell me something, and you know, that's where he's at. He's done a good job of being in the huddles with our guys in practice and just talking in practice. And you know, he's doing a lot of rehab, which is kind of weird when you see a guy working on a finger in practice while just trying to watch and pay attention, and the trainers in there doing all of his rehab, you know, on the sideline, just so he can make sure he's watching and understanding what we're doing, what we're adding, and what's going on with the teams in our league. With
an injury like his to his hand, or earlier, whether it's Cam with his foot or Dean with his foot, like how do you balance like trying to keep a guy in game shape if it's at all when he can't really practice? Does you have him run? How do you do that with a guy in Cardi's
situation? It's legs, so he can ride the bike. It's lower half.
Yeah.
You know, he can do, you know, stationary bike stuff without moving his hand. You know, obviously running's off limits. Just they don't want him swinging that finger around.
Yeah.
So, you know, just that way, just keeping him mentally locked in. And sometimes it's overrated because a lot of times some guys are naturals, you know, physically gifted to be able to just come back and compete again. And Cardi's one of those guys. He came back so quick from his ACL surgery. We were so mad at him. He'd like be doing stuff and we'd be yelling at him.
Yeah.
He'd dunk, you know, he'd be dunking. And like, dude, you're supposed to be 2 months out from that.
Yeah.
Stop. You know, he's one, you know, we're hoping that he's a quick healer in the same aspect with his finger as he was with his ACL injury.
As you look ahead to Oklahoma State, I'm sure with how important everything is for you guys now, they weren't going to look ahead anyway, but it probably helps that they just won, or they just beat TCU the other night. Yeah. You guys had a lot of success against them in Stillwater, but they haven't phoned it in despite all they've dealt with. Like, how big of a challenge do you expect from them on Saturday?
Well, you know, all those games, even at KU afterwards.
They were close for 30 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, at the 10-minute mark, it was, you know, one possession game.
Yep.
You know, and then after that, Kansas hit 4 threes and got it to 12, and that was the final point spread. It was a 12-point game.
Right.
And if they don't hit those 4 threes, it goes down to the wire. And same thing, both TCU games. The TCU game there, they won at the buzzer. You know, TCU hit a game winner there. Texas, same way. They jumped on Texas and got up, and then Texas got away from them in the end. So I just think that, you know, they're a team that has not cashed it in. They haven't quit. They play really hard. They change defenses to keep you up, you know. And they got guys that can shoot bombs. You know, they don't have to be on the line to shoot them. So,
absolutely. And then I think the last thing I'm curious about is how much, if at all, do you guys talk about the big picture? I mean, I know you don't need to. I'm sure they see the standing. I'm sure they know that stuff. But do you let them? Let's the wrong word. But do you get into that some? Do you guys talk about how important this is and where you're at? Or is it really just Oklahoma State, one game at a time, that's all you talk about?
I mean, we just consistently want to know, talk to them. Because we don't need narratives in their mind that if it doesn't go the way that what you told them, we need them to still be resilient. So if you could just be 1-0, you know, every time and focus on that, it helps them relax. And that's our approach has been with them. Well, we talk about, you know, the bucket list for our seniors more than anything, and that's the getting West Virginia. The only one that we didn't get was Texas Tech, and you know that was the only one place we didn't win at, you know, since they've been here. And that's, you know, that's one that obviously they're a good team, but we got them at our place, so that was good, and that was a great game. So we just keep the narrative really short, and really one where they can really focus on that and that alone.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, again, I appreciate it. I know you're busy. Congratulations on being in first place and what you guys have done so far, and best of luck Saturday against Oklahoma State.
Thank you.